and then we can get started. Carlos, do you want to kick us off?
Thanks, Stephanie. Welcome, everyone. We want to like to introduce our new Summer of Reproducibility program as part of the open source research experience this year. Very excited about that. This is in a collaboration with the Repeto project. It's an NSF-FAIR-OS grant that allows us to do this. And it's the overall goal is to invigorate an ecosystem of reproducibility artifacts, both in production and its usage. So before we go into details, quick introductions. Let me start with myself. I'm Carlos Malzahn. I'm an adjunct professor for computer science and engineering at UC Santa Cruz. I'm the founder and director of the Center for Research in Open Source Software, the principal investigator of a project to establish an open source program office at UC Santa Cruz that is funded by the Sloan Foundation, co-founder and director of the UCSC Systems Research Lab. And before I joined UC Santa Cruz in 2005, I was a performance engineer at NetApp. Unlike a typical adjunct professor, I'm actually pretending to be a full-time professor. I'm advising 5 PhD students, have graduated 9 PhD students and 12 master students. And if you want to find out more about my current and past research, go to my website. Mostly my background is in storage systems and more recently in reproducibility. Stephanie?
All right. Yeah, I'm executive director of the Center for Research in Open Source Software, as well as working with Carlos as the co-PI on the Open Source Program Office pilot program. Previously, I actually worked in research in a completely different area, but working on observation issues for a good number of years, but came over to UCSC in 2016 as to help to work with Carlos on Cruz, and it's been a great experience. We've been really focusing a lot more on building communities and enabling our open source projects to thrive and be sustainable, as well as I have a huge focus on trying to increase the diversity and include more historically excluded groups into open source projects in general, but specifically in the projects we work with here at the University of California. Right. That's it.
Hey, so very quick. When we started the OSPO UC Santa Cruz, we got a really nice grant from Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. The goal here is to amplify research impact via open source, right? It's an alternative pathway for the regular technology transfer path. And we're really started to see actually how researchers at UC could make a much greater impact if you had open source artifacts as part of their research, and you would actually contribute those and build open source ecosystems around them. Another thrust, if you will, of the OSPO UC Santa Cruz is to really support reproducibility, and this is funded by the Repeto Project. In particular, we want to simplify reproducibility in computational research, both the production of reproducibility artifacts as well as the consumption, both in research labs as well as the classroom. And so all of this is wrapped into a program of the OSPO that we call the Open Source Research Experience. This is a scalable exchange of project ideas. It is a summer project, a summer program, and it's designed to jumpstart contributor communities where students can work with top scientists on particular open source research efforts. it leverages global outreach programs, and in particular the Google Summer of Code, but also other global outreach programs that are allowing us to reach students on a global scale, as well as also fund this program. So there's a website, ospo.ucsc.edu/OSRE, and we will focus in this session on a sub-project called the Summer of Reproducibility. But then after the first 45 minutes, we will actually also talk a little bit more of the open source research experience effort in general. So a quick background. So the open source research experience is built on the Google Summer of Code. It gives opportunity for more sponsors to engage, and basically the idea is that we kind of wrap the Google Summer of Code in this program by mixing in funding from other sources as well. So Google Summer of Code is one funding source, but we have also industry, other foundations, and other fellowships from institutes, may they be NSF-funded or other funding sources. So this is very much an innovative program, and we've done this for 3 years now, and it works really great, and we're growing quite a bit. We are increasing the scope every year. Last year, we started to grow across multiple University of California campuses. But this year, we're actually extending the scope further by creating the Summer of Reproducibility, which allows mentors from all campuses to participate, or not from all campuses, any mentor to participate, so worldwide, but it's a topic-specific requirement. So it has to be related with reproducibility. The summer students are paid by this program. There are paid fellowships. There is a pairing with mentors, and we get into the details of that. But it's fundamentally we serve as matchmaker between mentors and students. The mentors have full control over who they want to work with, as well as the students, of course, have full control over about who they want to work with. So, in particular, the Summer of Reproducibility is motivated by the fact that more and more conferences have now reproducibility programs. There's a list that I created when I was chair of the reproducibility initiative of the Supercomputing 21. That is, we basically established the Reproducibility Award at SC, and as motivation, we collected all the reproducibility awards that already existed in other conferences. And as you can see, the conferences here are all computer science conferences, but they cover a wide range of computer science topics, from systems to data management to architecture, software, simulations, high performance computing, so programming languages. So it's actually becoming very mainstream to really care about reproducibility. So authors really are getting highly motivated to produce reproducibility artifacts, and research instructors want to use them, right? Instructors also found that having actually students reproduce research results and papers gives students a much deeper understanding of the paper than just reading the paper. So the challenge, of course, is that it's still quite difficult to create reproducibility artifacts. People are not very familiar with this process. And it's even harder to actually consume them in some sense, right? To use them. So the Summer of Reproducibility is really designed to create a community that helps in making this easier. And so we're looking for project ideas and mentors who want to work on that. And basically, you know, all you need to do is basically post projects, and then hopefully students will find these projects given our outreach efforts, and then you can work hopefully with really good students over the summer to actually realize some of these, to make it even easier to produce or consume reproducibility artifacts. So a little more detail about the projects, possible projects. So in parallel, we're also organizing the ACM Rep 23. That's the ACM Conference on Reproducibility and Replicability. It's the first time we create this conference this year. It's part of the Emergent Interest Group of interest at the ACM. And so we have, this is a larger effort to actually create a special interest group. And this ACM Rep conferences came out of the Practical Reproducibility and the Evaluation of Computer Systems workshop that has been given for 5 years at HBDC. And so if you want to see some of the topics that we are interested in the Summer of Reproducibility, you can look at the topics that are listed on this conference website that also has a, that we also highly encourage submissions for. There are, if you just, you know, going back to the list of conferences with reproducibility awards, there you know, any awardee wanted to talk about the experience or write about the experience of getting this award, getting the award is also highly welcome to submit to this conference. But also, if they want to refine or work on follow-up papers or publications, and want to basically post that as a project and is looking for students to help out, and are extremely welcome to also submit these projects to the Summer of Reproducibility. So there are two opportunities here. One is to submit a conference, and the other one to post projects for summer work and to recruit new students. There are, you know, particular kinds of projects that we're looking for is like preparing reproducibility artifacts for publications, sharing or reviewing artifacts, reproducibility artifacts in the classroom, reproducibility in building software. All these projects are highly relevant. All these topics are highly relevant. But it's not limited to this, right? Feel free to post projects that you think have to do with reproducibility. When you post, and I will get into that, is a process that involves a kind of review, and we will let you know, you know, whether that project idea is relevant or not relevant. So who can be a mentor in 2023? So I think, Stephanie, do you want to take over? I think I forgot to when you actually.
Yeah, it's okay. It's great. It's gonna work. No, you did. We perfect. Yeah. So just we'll talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts here. And we're already getting some great questions in the chat. I want to say, so this is, like Carlos mentioned, this is a little different this year than we have done in the past. In the past, as Carlos mentioned, we have focused on UC-based mentors, so researchers working on open source projects within the University of California system. And I apologize to all of our colleagues from University of Chicago, because we will say UC and we will mean UC, University of California. So I do apologize. I will try to make sure that it's more clear. So in the past, we have focused on University of California based or affiliated open source projects, and the mentors coming from those projects, which are typically researchers, faculty, postdocs, the like, also graduate students. But this year, we actually, as Carlos explained, with the Repeto project, have been able to create the Summer of Reproducibility. And in those cases, for projects related to reproducibility, we're able to support the work of students working with mentors from any, and we have US based here. Actually, we're a little bit, I actually think that's been updated, that we can work with any organization, any researchers working on looking to support the production of use of reproducibility artifacts, which Carlos has already talked about. So that opens up a lot more, meaning, really we have a lot more open ability to work with a much wider range of mentors this year. I can't, yeah, next slide. I think that's good. Sorry, Carlos has control of the slides. Thank you. So the process is, the important part to know from the beginning is how the process works, and feel free to pop questions in or interject while I'm speaking. But as Carlos mentioned, the focus really is the mentors are the ones that bring in the project ideas. So you, as a mentor, will come up with an idea that's based either on we'll focus on the reproducibility related projects right now. So if you have a potential project that you think would be useful for a student to work on to help you over the summer, you post it. And the really detailed instructions on the nuts and bolts of how to do that and put it on our GitHub repo is in the slide, or on the website listed here on the slide. And Carlos can probably pop that into the chat too. And it's all also available via our main OSRE website, which I already posted the website, the link on chat. And so that you post a quick little summary, which is like, this is a great example of one from last year. And just to note, those postings are not really, we don't really do peer review on those postings. We look at them to make sure that they're, something that is appropriate, but we're pretty open to what gets submitted and what gets posted by mentors, for our potential mentors. So all eligible projects are basically accepted onto the site, to be posted onto the ORC project ideas or project proposal site. And ultimately, the funding is really based on other criteria that we look at once the student proposals are submitted. And that's when we start looking at finding the good match. So here you see the project. So on this page, you'll see the larger list of projects. They're all broken down into separate web pages or separate pages for like the overarching project. So in the case of for the reproducibility projects, probably a mentor or a mentor group will be that you will list maybe multiple project proposal ideas, and those would be these little smaller like blurbs, and those will all be all of your projects will be on one page, so that the students can go to them and see all of your projects kind of presented, and you can have a little blurb on the top that explains your overall kind of the context of your overall project. We call it the overarching project for when we're talking about open source. But in the case of reproducibility, there might, it may be just a group that what your research is working on, and the different projects that kind of fall into that. So you will be, the mentors are responsible for creating just the little blurbs and the information on those pages. And again, the detailed instructions kind of give you a step-by-step on how to do that. And also the details, the specific details that you need to, that you should put on these project ideas. You want to also tag them because then that helps us organize it. So reproducibility related ones, if you tag it with reproducibility, add that, and then any topic tag that you would want. We're already accepting them. This is the picture you have here is from last year's list. We have we just started the 2023 list. So you can start, as soon as you have some ideas. And again, the ideas are not expected to be full-fledged proposals. They're expected to be short, kind of, this is the problem I see, and this is what I need a student to help me work on. And these are the skills or the knowledge that the student should have, or ideally would have. And this is maybe how long we think the project will take. And a lot of that can be adjusted. So just getting the idea up there, and then you can adjust it back and forth. It's not set in stone. If you need to make edits and stuff, it's great. So again, we really would like to have, projects really need to be submitted. These project ideas, so these small kind of short blurbs here, need to be up on our main page by February 7th. And I can talk a little bit about where the deadlines for that are coming from in a bit, but this really, it seems like a short period, but it actually, like I said, these are relatively short, quick tasks that you're just coming up with, that they don't have to be too detailed, and it's really up to the student to create all the detail. This is just kind of giving them a starting point. Any other questions about this that I missed? Is everybody kind of clear on this? Because this is kind of critical on how you become involved, because you are, this is how you start kind of, starting to attract students to the projects that you want them to work on. All right, Carlos, I see you've been taking care of the chat, so I don't think there's anything else.
Yeah, I think it's just very important for everyone to realize that the ideas you post or the projects you post, you're not going to be held to those that you have to actually do those projects, right? It's basically you're casting a net and hope that some of these ideas are going to be attractive to students, and that those students are the ones that you're looking for, right. The kind of students you're looking for, right? And so, and then the more ideas you put out there, the more likely you find, maybe a student that you really like to work with, and then you can actually refine these things, to the point where you won't be able to recognize the original project idea with what you actually end up doing with the student, right? That's a totally open process, but you want to basically have ideas out there that are likely to attract students, and then you can, then as you start working in the proposal phase, working with the student, you can refine those project ideas and turn them into proposals, and you will very quickly realize, whether you found a good match or not so good match.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. That mentors are not, I like the idea of the casting a net idea. It really is giving, as many ideas as you can put out there is great. It's definitely something that helps attract more students, and it gives students a view of the different areas that they might be able to help you in. And also, you're not, just by posting up here, you're not obligated in any way to work with the student who whoever picks something. You do have a lot of leeway on who you want to work with. And again, and what Carlos was saying is true. You can also, the way that these ultimately play out, you can update these and change kind of the focus throughout really the whole process. So just because you put something up there, maybe like in the next few days, doesn't mean you can't go back and change it, or at a later point, if you think, oh, this will probably help a student more. So we're very flexible on that, and the system is made to allow for iteration throughout the process. All right.
Yeah, another thing that was, don't, it doesn't have to be in great detail, right? So it's not a contract that you're putting out there. It's really just the context of the project you're working on. And that could be also simply a link to a website that you already have. And then a few sort of example projects that you like students to work on. And they're just really preliminary ideas. We don't require, in fact, we want to make it as easy as possible on you to post these projects. And it's just so that students feel like this is a nice project to work on.
Next slide. Great. So just to get an idea of what the students then have to do. So the students will look at that list. They will find the proposal that they're interested in. Let's say they're interested in a proposal that you have, a proposal, project idea, or proposal idea that you have posted. They will reach out to you, probably starting mid-February. I mean, some students are already asking us questions about things that they see on our website already. I'm trying to, not get too involved because we don't have a full, back to just kind of like telling them, please check back a little bit later. But they'll reach out to you and try to get feedback. So the idea is that students will look at what you've posted, start coming up with ideas about how to create a full proposal on it, which again are about, they're not very onerous proposals to write up. It's about they're typically 3 to 5 pages. And we provide a template with different, the different things that we expect. But it's not set in stone. Each proposal might be a little different, but we give them a good idea to start with. And I'll talk about. Oh, thank you. Good question, Jack. Yes, there is a deadline for students, and I'll give you that in a second on the timeline. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then so students you'll give feedback to them to the students. So again, an iterative process. Can be very intensive depending on how many students you have, but really should still be the work of the student, not you, writing the proposal for them. And selection criteria ultimately that you would use, again, mentors get to decide which students they want to work with, ultimately. So you look at the proposal outcome and does it benefit all your work overall? I mean, is it something that's going to benefit you at the end of the summer? You'll be like, oh, this is so helpful to me that this happened. This is a really, really key criteria. And also a criteria for us. So when we have to decide how many slots we're giving out, how well a specific proposal positively impacts the work of the mentor in the long run is part of that criteria that we look at. And do you think the proposal is attainable based on the way it's structured and your interaction with the student? And then we also really are focusing on building and maintaining more diverse communities. And so we are doing extra outreach and trying to do extra support for students from historically excluded groups. And we're doing that. We could talk a little bit about that as well. We're trying to reach out to more HBCUs and other minority serving institutions in order to do that. And so in the end, you work with this student, you're interacting with this student or maybe multiple students, and you can rate this. So you start to rate the student proposal, and keep in mind that you're also having had worked with these students on these proposals also gives you an idea of kind of like an extended interview process, basically. So they kind of give you an idea of what students' capabilities are, how well their professionalism, the level of expertise they may have in certain or skill level, or something where they seem quite sharp on certain things, but maybe need a little support on others. And these are all things that you will kind of know through that iterative process of writing a proposal. All right, next slide. So here's just the overall process, just to give people, because I think that it kind of gets confusing because there are a lot of different factors, and it's a different type of like kind of fellowship program, mentorship program that a lot of people are used to. So you post projects, that's happening now. The students review the projects that will happen, say, February, March. Interested students will reach out. and they create these proposals, and then the mentors review and rate them. That'll happen around April timeframe. And then we, based on a number of different factors, determine how many slots we can fund. And one is, it's the different sponsorships, the Google Summer of Code, the Repeto funding that we have through NSF, and other sponsors that are also supporting this program. And then we assign slots based on how they rank between all of the mentors. All the mentors rank who they want to work with, number one, two, and also tell us how many students they want or ideally would want. And then rank those students. Okay, this is my first choice, this is my second choice. And then we use all of that information to kind of figure out how much we can fund. And again, there's varying factors, and that's still in flux. The number is still in flux because we're still getting sponsorships and other things. So if any, and we know more from GSOC, later on as well. So there's a lot of different numbers in play, but the idea is that most mentors last year got their first choice, at least, if not, first and second. So typically, just also keep in mind, we typically don't think it's a great idea for mentors to work with more than like a one-to-one. Like, it's good, like I wouldn't want a single mentor to have more than one student. We like to have mentors and co-mentors. Co-mentors can be just kind of backup, and we could talk a little bit about that detail in the Q&A, but it's just something to keep in mind when you're writing up, like, hey, do I have somebody as a backup in case something happens to me? But that's not necessarily something that has to be decided now. It's just as we move forward, we kind of like start talking with mentors about, is there anyone else you're working with who can always be, assist in a situation where you had to be away or something, and the student still needs information. And then once we assign in, the slots, and we're able to announce it to the students, everybody cheers, and then around June-ish, the summer work begins, right? And this is the next slide should answer Jack's question, which this is the actual dates that we have. And these dates are based on because we do things in parallel with the Google Summer of Code. And the hope is that we will be a GSOC mentor organization again this year, and therefore we will do all of the application process also in parallel. Just it makes everybody's life easier to keep the timelines the same. And also, I find it easier that we actually use the same platforms for student applications. So, so the deadline for student proposals will be on April 4th, to answer the question from earlier. And then we have different, May 4th, for instance, is the day that we announced. So basically a full month between when the proposal gets put in to when the student slots are announced. And we'll highlight the onboarding period is something that they do with which we started through OSRE, that the Google Summer of Code also does. And it's just a time, it's actually not meant to be a time where work is being done, but more when people are getting to know each other, getting the communities, especially for the open source community work, getting the contributor, the student to know everybody that they're going to be working with over the summer. And then so they start working, they work for about, can be anywhere between typically around 10 to 12 week program or projects. And we like to highlight their work in October after the projects are done. We try to figure out ways in the September, October timeframe to really highlight the work of all the students. All right, sorry. All right, next slide. All right, so quick features to think about, and they're just based on some frequently asked questions that we get. The students, yes, are paid, in case there's a question about that. And we use the established GSOC rates, again, to try and keep everything consistent. And those rates tend to vary based on a student residency. So a US-based students, for instance, I think this year is for a 10 to 12 week program, I think it's they get a stipend that equals $6,000 for that period. But if they are a resident of another somewhere else, that stipend may go down. And it really just, it's a purchasing power parity type of arrangement. And GSOC's done all the work on that. So I just try and and it's just easier to keep it consistent. So we typically use their rates. We can have flexible start and end dates, really based on, you know, the needs of the mentor and the needs of the students. And we also allow for full or part-time. So if you have a project that's smaller, where you think, oh, this student can do it in a short period of time, or, you know, do it just, you know, 15 or 20 hours a week and still be really helpful to you. Yeah, those are totally acceptable projects for us to look at and to be considered. And again, mentors only really work with students they select, and it's really meant to directly impact in a positive way your own research. All right, next question, next slide. All right, yeah, so good timing. If there are any questions specific, well, to the overall, anything we've talked about in general, but specifically to anything that's within the summer reproducibility.
Yeah, this one I like stress. Then I sent out. Oh, we have another question here.
Oh yeah.
Rishikesh, do you want to ask the question live, or should I just ask from the? So maybe the question is, can we highlight some key points on how Summer of Reproducibility is different from GSOC so that we can direct students correctly to Summer of Reproducibility in GSOC according to the interest? Also, can the same project or its underlying parts be listed in SOR and GSOC? So in order to participate in GSOC, you have to be part of a mentor organization. And so what we offer here is a mentor organization, right? We don't actually know whether we're going to be a mentor organization in GSOC, where, you know, applications are due on February 6th. So once we are an application, a mentor organization, we offer to you to be part of this mentor organization to post projects that could be funded by GSOC. But if you have already your own mentor organization with GSOC, or you know, become part of one that's going to be accepted after February 6th, then you can also, of course, post your projects there. That's up to you, right? The primary service from mentors that we offer is that you can be part of our mentor organization. And we are basically pooling all the projects that have to do with reproducibility. So you can also have projects that have nothing to do with reproducibility and participate in the GSOC program. But if you participate with our program, even if we don't have GSOC funding for a particular project, we might find other funding. In fact, we have NSF funding for a lot of the reproducibility projects. So we pool essentially funding from multiple sources, and we give you this opportunity to be part of our mentor organization. So you don't have to apply to, you know, to GSOC to become your own mentor organization. That's really the advantage of participating with us. It's up to you. You know, you can definitely post projects on multiple mentor organizations that you want to be part of, right? That's totally fine. It's, of course, weird if you end up having funding for the same project from multiple mentor organizations. But that might be also something that is possible, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Wait, Stephanie.
Oh yeah, sorry. So yeah, to highlight that a bit. So we didn't put slides in here during the summer reproducibility discussion about what our experience has been with GSOC. We have some later for the for those folks who are from UC, University of California affiliated folks. But we typically have, the last year we had a really great number. We got actually 17 slots, which was great. I would say, yeah, 15 slots. And then we had two or three other slots that were from other, so 15 GSOC slots plus 3 others from other sponsors. So we had 18 folks starting out. What's great is that this year, because of the NSF project, and this is I think Tim's question, I lost my chat here, but I think Tim had this question of what we're guessing the numbers would be. Because the Repeto funding, we're actually have, I think at a minimum we'll have 15 summer reproducibility slots. That's what we're estimating at this point. And I don't think it would go below that. Let's put it that way. And if anything, we're hoping to have more. So those are specific, the summer reproducibility specific slots, and then the open source. The traditional open source research experience slots, so the ones that are dealing with open source projects that have typically been supported by GSOC and other sponsors, that we would again hope for at least 15. We can't, but it's hard to judge how that works because GSOC, support number of slots fluctuates each year, and we may have more sponsors than last year. So I mean, I could ultimately see. I was gonna say more than 10, less than 100. But I could actually envision anything between 20 to 30 overall slots this year, and really dependent upon the number of mentors we get. And I just noticed that with any of our sponsored programs, that the more that sponsors just look at the number of mentors and the variety of projects that are out there when they determine how many slots we get. So if we have, like I said, when we had 25 to 30 mentors, we had about 15 slots from GSOC, for instance. When we had less the year before, and this year, every year we've grown, we had, less slots. So that's just that's how we determine it as well. That's how I make estimates as well. It's like, well, do I have 30 mentors? Then I likely will get at least, that 15 slots or something along those lines. So I hope that clarifies it too.
And then that actually, again, stresses also the importance to find backup mentors, right? So if you post projects, lots of projects, right, and they're all, you are the only mentor of those, then it would make a far better case for GSOC funding if you had not a different mentor for every project, but you have a team of mentors, right, that basically pair up with projects, and you kind of it's basically when you put the mentors for each project idea, you have basically different pairings of mentors for each one, so that you see sort of there's a diversity of mentors and there's multiple mentors involved. That's basically what GSOC wants to see, right? We personally in our program, we see the importance of having a backup mentor, and we see the importance of having not too many students per mentor. But we also realize that there's, of course, a wide range of experience of dealing with, of mentorships, or being a mentor in this group. And realize that some people have years of experience to mentor 10 or more students per summer, and that's great, right? We just leave it up to the mentors to decide that. But we have also worked with mentors who did this for the first time and very quickly realized that they had taken on too many students, and so it's really based on your experience too.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that. I mean, there's a rule of thumb of a mentor and a co-mentor per project, per student project, and that no mentor is typically the lead on more than two. But like I said, that there's a level of flexibility, especially with summer reproducibility, because that's something new. So I think we got 4 questions from Harry that have a really good that hit a lot of different things that I think is great. So thank you for adding those. Harry, sorry. And one, will students be paid full or part-time? Again, depends on the size of the project. So if it's a part-time project, they kind of half the stipend. If it's full-time, they get the full. Those stipends are again based on specific. The stipends are the same at this point. They're based on the GSOC model. So, the GSOC rates. So a good question about whether students get different rates if they're PhD, master's, or undergraduate students. At this point, we only have a single rate, but I do think that with some of the Summer of Reproducibility projects, we are discussing about whether or not there needs to be a differentiation between the master's student, like graduate students versus undergraduates. And that's something we'll provide clarification for. But for undergraduates, it would be all in that GSOC, that rate. Global outreach, yes, is the program open for international students? Yes, 80% of our students from OSRE have come from outside of the US, or non-US students, or probably more than that actually. And we have the capabilities also for the Summer of Reproducibility to accommodate and make sure that international students can be also compensated. Keeping that in mind, there are a number of countries that are not allowed to be involved, and those will be countries that are part of embargoed countries. I think everybody's typically aware of which countries those are. And if you have any questions about that, and if anything comes up, and again, it's students residing there. If there's a student who is doing work in the US, is legally allowed to work in the US, but maybe is a citizen of one of those countries, that those students are eligible. So let's keep that in mind as well. Yeah, and then remote, sorry if we missed that project, I missed that point earlier. These are all remote. There could be a rare occasion where you get a student who is local to you, and you can feel free to try and work with them one-on-one directly, but they're definitely don't have to be in Santa Cruz to do this one. I think all of our students, save maybe one, has done this remote over the last however long since we've been doing GSOC, and definitely since we've done OSRE. So even our UCSC students that we've had haven't actually been in UCSC over the summer, right? In Santa Cruz over the summer. They're working from wherever they reside permanently. So yeah, it's a completely remote program. And that said, we try really hard to create a cohort over the summer. And this year, after I think we're going to try even a little bit, try a few more strategies to really create a stronger cohort, so that students feel like they're part of something that's just not the one, just working with their mentor. So that's something that we're working on this year, and also that also helps the idea of having more of a mentor cohort, so that mentors can kind of talk together and share best experiences throughout the program, and not just maybe a little bit at the beginning. So, all right. Any other questions from based on what we've been talking about now? Right. So we also have, so for those who are interested in this traditional open source projects that we've worked with on the past, not the reproducibility specific ones, we have a few extra slides, and we can talk a little bit. There's just a little bit of nuance differences that it's a lot of it's very similar, but it just, if you want to stick around, we can talk a little bit about that as well. And also for any of our previous mentors, I have a couple of you on the call, I'm going to talk, give a little bit of a detail about how things will change a little bit from last year as well. So yes, PhD students. Oh, good question. Great question. Yes, PhD students actually, the question was whether PhD students can be co-mentors. Yes, that's very normal. That's kind of, actually, PhD students are often the lead mentor. So PhD, anybody can mentor, faculty can mentor, anybody that's a researcher and working on, in this case, reproducibility. And in the case of the traditional one, a lot of times it's part of a PhD project that somebody's working on as part of what their project is based on, and that's what they're leading as a mentor on. So we've actually had the PhD student be the mentor and the faculty be the co-mentor. So
Yeah.
Carlos?
Stephanie, really quickly. So yeah, so we actually had in one case even an undergraduate student be the mentor. That did actually lead to a authority problem because the mentor ended up being younger than the student, and we were able to resolve that.
It was a successful project.
And so that required a little bit of extra work, but actually worked really well. Right? It really depends on your judgment on, you know, as the project leader, who should be a mentor. But it's actually, we leave it up to you, to the project leaders to decide, you know, who you want to have as a mentor. Obviously, the success of the project depends on the quality of the mentorship.
Right. Yeah, and somebody was just asking whether this recording and the slides will be made available. I think I'll probably stop the recording when we're and then restart for any of the other session. But so, and we'll be posting it. And also, I wanted to try, because I know there was a bunch of people who had a conflict with this time in the end, who were interested in the Summer of Reproducibility. So I will probably do a little kind of office hour, ask me anything type session next week as well. But we'll have the video posted ahead of time. So if you have colleagues that you think would be interested in this, who weren't able to attend, they can watch the video, and then, you know, we'll have an informal kind of like, you know, session, just answering questions, and I'll have the same slides available in case people, but I won't go through the whole program, the whole presentation. So, all right. Okay, so hold on one second. I'm going to stop recording this.